Hot chocolate?
Hello, good morning. Welcome in to another episode of Good Morning Nasdaq. It is 8:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 15th day of November, year of our Lord 2024, is the opening day of Michigan's gun season. I will
Oh,
unfortunately not be participating, but we're here. We're having a good time in the stock market. Sorry again about my absence. Big thanks to Kyle for showing up again this week as I was gone. I was unfortunately in the hospital again, God willing, for the last time, so I can stay here every morning with you guys and have a wonderful, fantastic, amazing morning every single day for a little bit of Good Morning Nasdaq, where we talk about the biggest gappers of the day, the biggest movers, the biggest runners in small cap land. We are joined today by Mr. Huddie Hudson. How are we doing in the dark on the West Coast?
yeah, it's 5:33, 5:43, 5:56 a.m. here.
Yeah, I
And
didn't think the minutes were different.
yeah, well, I was just ballparking it. Again, it's the point is it's early, but we're here. Happy to be here as always with you guys on the YouTube channel. Wanted to teach you, Dom, a word today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. God willing. Do you want to learn how to say it in Arabic?
Sure.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. I've
Yeah, and
actually
it's a
seen
pretty
that.
big one. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people know that one, so you can kind of throw it out like, oh, like Jay's not gonna come to the party. Okay, inshallah, like God willing.
But you want him to come. So it would be like,
Oh,
G's gonna come.
whatever it is. It's a good word. So
Ah. Well, welcome in, everybody. Make sure you don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Kind of lacking right now. Need to get that number up towards 50 as you guys funnel in and filter in. I will remind you later in the show as well. Looks like we have one pretty good sized gapper this morning, a couple in the 50s and 60s, but we got one in the 200%. So obviously, we'll spend the majority of our time talking about that one, and we'll see what's going on there. We'll answer a few questions, and we'll get on out of here into the markets. It is Friday, so hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you have some good stuff planned for the weekend. We got some good football on this weekend as well, so excited for that.
are the Oregon Ducks still undefeated?
They still are.
Wow.
seven
Wow,
o'clock
wow.
or 7:30 this weekend. They go to Wisconsin.
Okay.
So
The Honey Badgers?
the I don't know, I think they're the regular Badgers.
Okay.
But all right, let's get going. AREN is your biggest gapper of the day. The
The
Arena
first thing I
Group.
see is it's on the Amex. So was UADS, by the way, or
I
was it?
see New York Stock Exchange. So
It's
obviously,
so interesting.
obviously we don't know. How do we
Yeah, I'm
ever
on
know the
Webull.
truth?
I don't know when this got like confusing. Like, how is it? How is Webull saying Amex and you're saying you're like, how's there discrepancy? It's like a
Why is there
blatant
even an
fact.
exchange little tab if it's always wrong? Or it could be right, but
I
it's hard to
don't
know
know.
about the accuracy of it.
All right, so there's a New York Stock Exchange Amex stock gapping up today.
A non Nasdaq,
Okay,
unless it is
okay.
a Nasdaq, unless and
Honest,
then they're both wrong. Internet content and information industry, communication services.
okay,
Looks like digital media platform, the United States and internationally. Let's see if
okay.
there was any news. 16 hours ago, looks like they generated $4 million in net income for the third quarter. First ever
Oh,
profitable
nice.
quarter. Nice
Good
job, Arena
turnaround.
Group. Um, yeah, there's like a lot of movies and shows that they're PRing about, so they must be involved in the back end of all that. Um, but it looks like some earnings have come out yesterday, and the stock has gone higher, up right now 236%. And that's kind of off the highs so far. So it was up a lot more than that earlier this morning. They have 5.4 months of cash left. What do you see here in the dilution? I don't really see anything besides a
Wanna-
shelf from 2022 in which they still have 3.4 million left. And that's about it on the dilution front. Cash need is high. Overall risk is medium. Offering ability is medium. Float is 11 million, so kind of in that hot spot where it is not too high. The stock can still move a lot, but it's also not too low to where you're scared to trade it. With a
Yeah,
market cap of 97 million.
I definitely like that as a hot spot as well for those reasons.
11 mil.
Yeah, like 7 to 12 is that area where I'm just like, okay, it's not too low, it's not too high. Like this thing, exactly what you said, it has range, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop out. I just don't think it's going to be as violent as the other things that we tend to see. So,
When it's
uh,
700K.
versus that, yeah.
It just looks scary when I see those numbers. All right, AREN. Let's take a look at the daily chart. News came out yesterday, so you can see here at 4 o'clock went from 64 cents to a high of 215, and then continued its run this morning from the 160s all the way up into the 240 area. I'm pulling back right now into support, but is kind of holding in that 230% plus range. So pretty big size gapper right now. Let's take a look at the daily chart. As we go back, what I'm looking for is big volume days in which the stock did something. And how can we relate that to today? Because I think that is the best way to know what the stock likes to do when it gets volume and interest. It's already done 38 million today. So as I go back further, I really don't see anything or anywhere on the stock where it's had a day like today, where it's gapped up on big news, where it's had a ton of volume. I'm back 3 years right now. The stock was much higher in the 10 to 20 range, but has been super top left to bottom right, and has just faded all the way down to the 50, 60 cent area before gapping up this morning into the ones and twos. What do you think when you see a daily chart like this, Huddie, that there really is no history to play off of?
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of it. It's just I think it's more of like a 50-50 in my head kind of going in. Not really taking anything from the chart, no previous history, no real reason to suspect this news is bad, like no reason to be bearish. I didn't hear anything super dilutive in the dilution tracker that you read, but there is a fundamental, like what you said, there was a shelf that was ready to go.
In November 2022, they had total shelf capacity of 250 mil, and there's 3.4 million yet, but there's nothing really in the works.
Okay.
But
I mean, yeah, I mean, again, like maybe they take this opportunity with the earnings to get a deal done with the appreciated price of their stock. I have no idea. Don't know how to guess earnings, and I'm not going to. So yeah, I would say it's pretty 50-50 here, but earnings catalyst, maybe of the stronger catalysts out there. Like generally, I feel like I want to stay away from shorting earnings. That probably is not like an objective rule for me, no matter what. Like I shorted UAVS yesterday, and that was an earnings winner, so I'm not like that opposed. I always kind of think like, okay, yeah, you're having a good earnings reaction, but you're also a $2 ticker gapping up from 50 cents. Like, how good can it really be? And that's just kind of like the general approach I take towards all of them. So obviously, if you are more of a fundamental based trader, you can look into the earnings. You can get more of like a hybrid type of bias or thesis based off what you know. I just assume that okay, it's good earnings, it's gapping up, but like, does it really deserve a 200% gap up? Is it just going to hold here and go higher, or is it going to like pull back and digest the gap up? Like, I really don't know. That's why I think it's 50-50. But I still think this company is probably not going to be, a good company. And I don't know for sure, but a lot of these don't pan out well.
Yeah, when there's nothing to play off of and you have a fresh chart like this, there's no behavioral traits to play off of, and being able to say, oh, every time it gaps up big, it spikes a little and then fades off for the rest of the day. Or even on the flip side to say, oh, I'm super bullish because every time the stock gaps up on big volume and news, that it runs all day. We don't have any of that, so you kind of go into it without that extra bit of information. There are levels on the chart. Obviously you have this top here from 2024 in the 230, 240 area. You have some in the 450s, 460s. But when they haven't really done any volume up there, that even matches what we've done in pre-market so far. It's hard to care about those levels all too much, even though that first top from 2024 is kind of where we've topped out so far. Sometimes just being areas on the chart, we do end up getting some resistance, especially if you've had to go 200 or 300% to get there. It's very difficult for a stock to continue going at hundreds and hundreds of percents without finding some sort of difficulty. So we'll continue to monitor that this morning. One of the bigger gappers we've seen in a while. I don't know how many. Have there been a lot of 200, 300% gappers this week?
No, not really at all, actually.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty big one for this week. On news, that doesn't really feel that worthy of that big of a gap from the 60 cent area up over 2 is a pretty significant move. So you're just looking at this as a fresh chart. And usually in those situations, I do nothing and I sit back and wait for some sort of pattern to show up, and miss these type of plays because there is no history or resistance to play off of. And that is okay. If it is something that turns into a multi-day runner, or maybe it's up 4 or 5 or 600% later, there's a better play on it next week. It's more of just a patience idea for me and learn from its move today. I'm sure Huddie, Kyle are interested in probably gap and crapping this, being up 240% on the day. But when there's no history, I tend to just let it be and let it live its best life. So that is AREN, the Arena Group, up 238.6% this morning. Congratulations, big gapper of the day. T-Pad is not up 1,900%, I'm guessing, right? Yeah, probably a split or something. But the next biggest gapper of the day is only up 61%, and that is SPPL. Let's do a quick recap because we have seen this stock here in the last... Maybe it's not one that we would have talked about because it just kind of ran and didn't really necessarily gap up. So let's get caught up on Simple, which is SPPL, up 65% right now. 5.48 million float, a Nasdaq stock out of Singapore. 36 minutes ago, they won a $400,000 contract to supply autonomous cleaning robots at Singapore's International Airport Terminal. Did they get this news at the airport, or the robots are going to do their job at the airport? Hard to know. But it's a $400,000 contract. They have negative 8.8 months of cash left, so I think they're a little behind on cash and probably could use some. And there is no dilution that I see. I just see the IPO as an offering, and that is it. So taking a look at the daily chart, or SPPL, this is kind of the polar opposite of AREN when we talk about history on the chart. This one is very recent, on a day in which, or a 2-day stretch in which the stock did over 400 mil and right around 100 mil in volume, running from the 30-cent area all the way up towards the 180s on a 2-day stretch before fading off and being significantly off those highs, being at the close yesterday over 100% away from that breakout level, but up 66% right now, topping out in the 160s. On pretty light volume, only done 20 mil this morning. What are your thoughts originally, Mr. Huddie?
For SPPL?
For Simple.
Supple?
Simple Pimple.
Yeah, I mean, I think when there's like overhead resistance that is kind of time-wise close by and still overhead, I think it's going to have kind of an effect. So anyone that, bought in the 186 or in that, region of 150 plus, maybe a potential bag holder. So I kind of see this chart as a bounce short, where there's resistance at 186, and I expect it to kind of reject that area and have a pullback. Doesn't have to go all the way back down, not necessarily, but I think at least on first attempt, it's going to have trouble with that area, and that's kind of how I just view this daily chart. Otherwise, there's not much here for me.
Yeah. When I look at this, I don't really see breakout. I know maybe people who don't short sell at all, and all you're allowed to do is long. You think multi-day breakout over this 185 area, 186. But when a stock has to run from 88 cents to get there, I'm a lot less inclined to be interested unless it's doing like 900 mil in volume. And even then, I'm probably super not touchy on the buy button just because risk reward is probably not going to be all that great. But when stocks have to run that far to get over resistance, if they have to run 100% to get to that level, am I being greedy at that point, asking for the stock to do another 40 to 75% past it? So usually I don't look at these from that perspective. I look at the stock is far enough away and maybe more short into resistance from Gratani's original DVD, and think that this resistance is so recent and we probably have a significant amount of bag holders from that run that if they have been holding from, the low ones, the mid ones, the high ones, and the stock has been below $1 for the past couple weeks, that they're getting bailed out into this gap up and are more likely to be selling and overcoming those buyers as bag holders. I am much more bearish on the situation and think that it is going to have difficulty running through the 150, 60, 70s with ease. So whether it's a gap and crap, shortened resistance, I think this recent run makes today much more of a bearish situation in my mind, just because I expect there to be a lot more reasons for there to be higher supply and more selling on something like this than an overall bullish thesis.
Yeah, and then there's a world. It's like today is like a bounce short into resistance, and maybe for a gap and crop failure. Like I could see all that kind of terminology working out. And then on the flip side, if it doesn't work out and kind of like holds its structure towards the highs, and I get the feeling that a bunch of shorts are involved near the highs, then yeah, it might turn into a breakout. But I definitely think it needs time to develop that type of recipe of shorts and longs all in the wrong spots. I don't think we're there right now.
And we will see here on this beautiful Friday what happens with SPPL. Alrighty. What's the like button looking like? 33. Pitiful. Absolutely ridiculous. We need 17 more likes, Huddie says. He's finally visible. The sun is shining out where he is at 6:11 a.m. Give us a couple likes for that. Over 120 of you watching. Let's see what you guys are saying in the live chat, as I don't really see any other runners. Everything else is 50% or below. So we pretty much have a giant gapper in the 260% area with AREN. And then everything else is quite low and not all that interesting. Someone says if you see New York Stock Exchange and Amex, it's on the new NY SEAM exchange. I don't know if that's real or not, or if they're just mixing them together. Someone said, what about CERO? Thoughts on this? News, good volume. Daily is not that great. Usually if daily is not that great, I don't care about the other two situations. This kind of fits a lot of what we were just talking about with SPPL. It's a very similar daily chart. Stock on decent volume has ran pretty far, 7-8 cents up to the 32, over, right around 100% away at its lows from that breakout level, and is now gapping up into that area. The first thing I think is not buy in these situations. It's tough to see a stock up from 16 cents to 32 this morning, or if it gets to that area and want to be long. But at 28 to 32 cents, I'm really not that interested in shorting to resistance either on a Friday, and in which I have not really been looking at the market this week. It's all these new ideas are probably not going to be something I'm all that interested in. But I'd have to dive into this one deeper. But it's a significant bounce. Let's see if there was news for a second just on this one.
There's some FDA stuff.
27 minutes ago, FDA clearance of investigational new drug application to initiate phase 1. So they're pretty far away from anything real anyway, being a biotech in phase 1. So don't expect that news to travel too far. But yeah, very similar to SPPL. I expect there to be bag holders in this area, and that there should be a significant amount of sellers. And if it is holding up 2, 3 o'clock on a Friday, up in that 30 to 40 cent area, and it's doing 1 billion shares, there definitely is a possibility for that breakout to be successful. But it really comes down to risk reward and if that makes sense for me. But out of the gate this morning, it's probably something I ignore, not something where I'm just blindly going to buy 33 and call it a breakout. What else are we saying? Got the likes up to 50. Appreciate it.
Wait, I just want to say one thing about Cero.
Michael Cero.
Yeah, I just want to say that filings matter, and you should probably check the filings.
Check the filings.
Before deciding long or short.
What does the filings say?
There's just some yuck stuff in there.
Tell us.
Look at the most recent prospectuses and registrations from the past 2 weeks on bamstack.com. Like, you can just read through them. I think there's an ATM that's been activated. I think that there's a ton of dilution that's been repriced and pending effect. So whatever you think you're about to do, like, I think in my mind that they're about to dog this stock. And I don't know if they're going to run it first and break it out. And I hope they do. But I think ultimately this becomes a really good short one day, because fundamentally this looks like a dog. S1's recently amended. Like, it just seems like something's coming.
Young Gary, something's doing something.
Buyer beware is all I would say.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Let's see. Someone asking about BTCWF. Volume, not great, but 3 green days from 0.1 to 0.6. Yeah, Huddie was talking about this one before we went live. So if you kind of have the same thoughts on that one,
What was
similar
the ticker?
that WF one, BTC WF. Nice
I think
looking
at the end
daily
of the day,
chart.
it's too illiquid.
Yeah.
I think that's what I decided. Like I pulled it up for the first time when we were discussing it. I think it's a good runner in the OTC market for like I don't we gotta read it's 3 days. I guess that's all that's good about it. And Bitcoin's maybe having a bit of a pullback right now, so maybe some weakness, but like honestly still holding really well towards the highs. So also extremely strong still. Um, just like big picture wise. So you got a ticker that traded 8 million shares into 50 cents. Like that's probably on the more illiquid side for a 50-cent ticker on the OTC market. Probably going to be dealing with spreads there that are funky, and you're dealing with a ticker that's got an F at the end, which means it's foreign, listed on another exchange in another country, and that is simultaneously trading as the OTC is trading. So a lot of reasons for choppy behavior within that dynamic. And again, just with the liquidity, like and the spread, I don't think it's anywhere close to like anywhere close to A rated chart. It's not close to that. I don't know how else to say it. Looks
Yeah.
horrible. Looks like something that is like enticing and then like absolutely rose bait.
Um. Okay. Someone asked about Lunar. Is this a good idea? A good choice for a bounce after yesterday's drop? I say no. This has kind of been running slowly. I had a good position in the 950s, but it stopped me out on this day. And it looks like I just had to have even wider risk for a slow, patient bounce. They had earnings, I believe, yesterday, and looks pretty sell the newsy, if you ask me, with that giant red candle from the 14s down to the 10s. That is not something I want to be buying. It doesn't really fit my pattern just because how slow it went up anyway. It's not like a small cap, low float runner. It's a much more real stock that was running into earnings. So the last thing I want to be doing is buying on the backside of all that selling pressure. It doesn't really fit the pattern because of how slow it went up. And just fundamentally, I think the move was the buying in anticipation of it, not buying once the news has come and gone. So Lunar, really not that interested. Someone asked about Tesla first bounce after its run. Not my speed. Buying $313 stocks after, we have the election, a bullish run on the overall markets, couple red days in a row. At some point, is Tesla going to bounce? I'll bet you it does. But will I be participating in that? Probably not. Buying first green days or reversals on big caps, large caps. Very difficult not to get stopped out. They could look disgusting and weak and be stopping out under low day or pulling under low day and be completely fine and then break the new highs at 10 o'clock. Just because of the nature of large caps, I will stay away here, and I'm not really all that interested. Someone's asking about DJT. I'm not sure why people are still watching this. I think at some point you gotta just let go of stocks that no longer fit patterns. DJT kind of fits the same picture as like a Lunar or a Tesla but DJT got super interesting once it started going from 35 to 55 and really extended itself for multiple days. You obviously had the sell the news event with the election. And now it's just trading, just kind of not a ton of range, just, bouncy ball that's in a fade pattern right now. I don't see any reason to be playing this long or short right now unless it's much more long term. I don't know if Huddie agrees or disagrees with any of that.
No, I think the time to play DJT has come and gone. You're kind of more in the illiquid chop area of the chart than the clean price action that is going up for 4 weeks in a row and then going down for 2 weeks in a row. So this is not where I want to be positioned, and there's no longer a catalyst in front of us. There's no longer any reason for it to go up. It's ultimately not a good company. There's one person in the world that uses it, so fundamentally, I don't think it deserves any of this. So I just don't understand why we're still playing it or why we're talking about it. It's dead for now.
You got to know when to fold them.
You got to know when to stop watching them. You got to know what the patterns are. I couldn't even imagine what kind of pattern you're looking for, what kind of thesis, big picture or technically speaking.
And that's the problem, I feel like, with the mid to large caps that someone asked us about a couple weeks ago about why don't we just trade those? Maybe it's on a Wine Wednesday. I just feel like this is why, because if it's not part of the super volatile period of the chart, you tend to just never let go of them. And you keep watching them and finding some reason to trade them. And maybe the chart says you shouldn't be doing anything with it, which is a lot of the time.
I didn't even pull up the chart. What's it
You're
at?
not gonna like it anymore. 27. It's just super at a spot when I couldn't be any less interested. Sometimes it's important to maybe, just throw a different ticker symbol on the chart and say, would you be interested in this if this was ARCY? Some random, would you be interested in this chart? I wouldn't. Just because it's DJT doesn't make it playable.
Because I got to go inside.
All right, sir. It's 9:20. We're going to wrap it up right now. Thank you guys for being here this morning. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, a fantastic day of trading. If you want access to 3 or 4 leaf, you can head on over to clovertrade.io. I know Kyle just did a video lesson on DXYZ and that great trade he made on it. If you want access to that, you know where to go. We'll be live again Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. I will be here with Huddie and inshallah. And we'll see you then. Have a wonderful weekend. And hope you guys have a great and amazing trading day. Goodbye now.